I have spent 26 years standing in the shadow of my sister Amber, watching every one of her achievements get celebrated while mine get brushed off as lucky breaks. When Amber dropped out of medical school, our family supported her and funded her beauty salon dream. When I earned a full scholarship to a prestigious MBA program, the only reaction I got was, "That is nice, honey." I had no idea that all those dismissive comments and underestimations would become the most powerful fuel for my journey to success. Before I share this story, I want to ask you something. How many of you have ever felt underestimated by your own family? Please comment below and let me know what city you are watching from. Hit that like button if you believe that sometimes the best motivation comes from proving people wrong, and do not forget to subscribe to follow more stories about turning doubters into believers. Sometimes not getting the support you expect can become the greatest gift you never knew you needed. Let me show you exactly what I mean when I say that being underestimated became my secret weapon. Growing up as the younger sister in our middle-class Atlanta suburb home taught me early that love came with conditions I never fully understood. My sister Amber is 3 years older than me, and from the time I could walk, I noticed that our parents, Robert and Patricia, treated us like we were living in two completely different universes. Dad owns a small accounting firm, and Mom works as a school administrator, so they understand the value of hard work, but somehow that understanding never translated equally to both their daughters. In elementary school, I watched Amber bring home report cards with mostly B+ grades to standing ovations from our parents. They would stick her tests on the refrigerator, call the grandparents, and take her out for ice cream to celebrate her efforts. When I brought home straight A- grades, I got a quick good job before the conversation immediately shifted back to whatever drama Amber was experiencing with her friends. I started keeping my report cards in my backpack longer, hoping maybe if I timed it right, I might get the same enthusiasm. That day never came. The disparity extended far beyond academics. Every school year brought Amber an entirely new wardrobe, while I inherited her hand-me-downs, despite the fact that we had completely different body types. Amber got the trendy clothes that fit her perfectly, and I got stuck trying to make her leftovers work on my shorter, smaller frame. When I asked why I could not get new clothes too, Mom explained that it was wasteful to buy new when Amber's clothes were barely worn. But somehow, it was not wasteful to buy Amber new clothes every season. Birthday celebrations became annual reminders of where I stood in the family hierarchy. Amber's birthdays were elaborate affairs with themed parties, hired entertainers, and guest lists that included half her grade. My birthdays were quiet family dinners where Mom made my favorite meal and Dad picked up a grocery store cake on his way home from work. When I asked why my birthdays were different, I was told that I preferred low-key celebrations, which was news to me since nobody had ever asked what I preferred. The Christmas morning gift distribution was perhaps the most visible representation of the favoritism. Amber would wake up to a mountain of wrapped packages that took her hours to open, while my pile consisted of practical items like school supplies, clothes I needed anyway, and maybe one toy if I was lucky. The reasoning was always the same. Amber needed more encouragement because she struggled with self-esteem while I was naturally driven and did not require external motivation. I was 8 years old when I realized that being responsible and self-sufficient was actually a punishment in my family. High school brought these patterns into sharper focus as our paths began diverging in ways that would define our futures. Amber flourished in the social aspects of school, joining the drama club and cheerleading squad, maintaining her position as one of the popular kids while keeping her grades just high enough to avoid academic probation. She dated starting at 14, had sleepovers every weekend, and generally lived the carefree teenage experience that movies are made of. Meanwhile, I threw myself into academics and extracurricular activities that would actually matter for college applications. I made honor roll every semester, became captain of the debate team, and started working part-time at a local bookstore to save money for college expenses I knew I would have to cover myself. While Amber was worrying about homecoming dates, I was researching scholarship opportunities and planning my escape route from a family that seemed determined to keep me small. The driving test incident became a perfect metaphor for how differently we were treated. Amber failed her driving test 3 times, each failure met with sympathy and encouragement from our parents. After her 3rd failure, Dad went out and bought her a brand new red Volkswagen Beetle, reasoning that having her own car would motivate her to pass the test eventually. She finally passed on her 4th attempt and got to drive her new car home from the DMV. When my turn came, I studied the driver's manual until I could recite it backwards, practiced every chance I got, and passed on my 1st attempt. My reward was being told I could start saving up to buy my own used car. It took me 8 months of working extra shifts at the bookstore to afford a 10-year-old Honda Civic with high mileage and a dent in the passenger door. Nobody in my family attended the day I bought my car or celebrated this milestone of independence I had earned entirely on my own. Prom season highlighted the financial priorities in our household with painful clarity. Amber's prom preparation became a family project involving an $800 dress shopping trip, professional hair and makeup appointments, and a pre-prom party at our house, complete with a hired photographer. 2 years later, when my prom arrived, I was given a $50 budget and told to find something nice. I spent weeks thrift shopping and eventually found a beautiful vintage dress that I altered myself using skills I had taught myself from YouTube videos. I did my own hair and makeup, and nobody in my family took a single photograph. College application season brought the most glaring example of the double standard that had governed my entire life. Amber applied to 3 local state schools with the help of an expensive college consultant our parents hired to maximize her chances of acceptance despite her mediocre grades and test scores. The consultant cost $3,000, but Dad explained that it was an investment in Amber's future, and she needed the extra support to compete with students who had better academic records. When my time came to apply to colleges, I handled every aspect of the process myself. I researched schools, wrote my own essays, requested transcripts, and submitted applications to 15 universities, including several Ivy League schools and top business programs. I did not ask for help because I had learned not to expect it, and I did not get any because my parents assumed I had everything under control. When I was accepted to a prestigious business school with a full scholarship covering tuition room and board, the reaction was a brief "congratulations" before the conversation turned to Amber's anxiety about choosing between her 3 acceptance options. College was supposed to be a fresh start, where merit mattered more than family dynamics, but the patterns from home followed me even as I tried to build my own life. Amber chose the state school closest to home and struggled immediately with the increased academic demands and social pressures of college life. Her first semester grades were concerning enough that our parents hired a private tutor to help her with basic study skills and time management. They also paid for her to retake 2 courses during summer school when she failed them outright. During this same period, I was thriving in my challenging business program, maintaining a perfect GPA while working campus jobs to cover my personal expenses and build my resume. I made the dean's list every semester, was invited to join the honors business fraternity, and started networking with alumni who worked at major corporations. When I called home to share these achievements, I was met with distracted responses and conversations that quickly shifted to Amber's latest crisis or social drama. Amber ended up changing her major 4 times during college, extending what should have been a 4-year degree into a 6-year journey of self-discovery, funded entirely by our parents. Each major change was supported as her finding her passion, whether it was communications, art history, psychology, or finally settling on general studies with a minor in theater arts. The additional tuition, housing, and living expenses never seemed to concern anyone, and Amber was encouraged to take her time figuring out her path. I took a different approach, completing a double major in finance and marketing in 3.5 years while maintaining my scholarship and working enough hours to graduate debt-free. I spent my summers in unpaid internships at competitive firms, building skills and connections that would serve my career for decades. These opportunities often conflicted with family vacation plans, but when I explained that I could not miss my internships, I was told I was prioritizing work over family and missing out on making memories. The graduation ceremonies perfectly encapsulated the different levels of importance our achievements held in our family's eyes. When Amber finally graduated after 6 years, our parents threw a massive celebration party with extended family friends, and catered food. They rented a party hall and hired a DJ, treating her delayed graduation like she had just won a Nobel Prize. The fact that it took her 2 extra years and countless thousands of dollars in additional tuition was never mentioned. When I graduated summa cum laude with my double major and was inducted into 3 honor societies, my celebration was dinner at Applebee's with just my parents and Amber. The conversation during dinner focused primarily on Amber's post-graduation plans and job search, with my academic achievements briefly acknowledged before being overshadowed by concerns about Amber's transition into the real world. Moving into our post-college lives, the financial support patterns that had defined our childhoods continued without any pretense of equality. Amber moved back into her childhood bedroom rent-free while she figured out her next steps, which consisted mainly of sleeping until noon, online shopping, and complaining about how competitive the job market had become. Our parents paid her credit card bills, car insurance, health insurance, and gave her spending money for entertainment and clothes. I moved to Chicago for an entry-level analyst position at a competitive investment firm, covering all my own moving expenses, security deposits, and startup costs for living in an expensive city. When I asked if I could borrow money for professional wardrobe pieces that were required for my job, I was told that learning financial responsibility was an important part of becoming an adult, and that taking out a small personal loan would be good experience for managing credit. Family group text conversations became a daily reminder of whose life mattered more to our parents. Every mundane detail of Amber's day was documented and discussed, from her breakfast choices to her mood fluctuations to her latest Netflix binge. My messages about work projects, career developments, or life in a new city were either ignored entirely or acknowledged with brief responses before the conversation returned to Amber's emotional state or social plans. Holiday visits home became exercises in patience as I listened to hours of conversation about Amber's dating life, her applications for jobs she was underqualified for, and her various creative pursuits that never progressed beyond the initial enthusiasm phase. When I tried to share stories about my work, the clients I was serving, or the skills I was developing. The response was polite but disinterested, and the topic quickly changed back to something Amber-related. The contrast became even more stark when Amber decided at 25 that she wanted to become a doctor. This announcement was greeted with overwhelming enthusiasm from our parents, who immediately began researching MCAT preparation courses and medical school application strategies. They paid for expensive private tutoring, multiple test preparation courses, and application consulting services to help Amber craft the most compelling possible application, despite her mediocre undergraduate record. During the same period, I was considering applying to MBA programs to accelerate my career progression. I researched programs myself, studied for the GMAT, using borrowed books and free online resources, and took the test once scoring in the 95th percentile. When I mentioned my MBA plans to my family, the reaction was lukewarm curiosity about why I needed more education when I already had a job. Amber's MCAT journey took 3 attempts over 2 years, with our parents funding each round of additional preparation and retesting fees. When she finally achieved a barely acceptable score, the celebration was comparable to a national holiday. My single GMAT attempt that resulted in a top-tier score was acknowledged with a brief, "That is nice," before the conversation returned to Amber's medical school application timeline. The medical school acceptance process revealed just how far our parents were willing to go to ensure Amber's success. They paid the full $60,000 per year tuition and living expenses, viewing it as an investment in her future as a doctor. When I was accepted to several prestigious MBA programs with scholarship offers covering 80% of the costs, I was told that our parents could not help with the remaining expenses because medical school was already straining the family budget. Medical school proved to be a disaster for Amber from the very beginning, though our family's narrative management tried to frame every setback as a temporary adjustment period. She struggled with the basic science courses, failed anatomy twice, and fell behind in every single class during her first semester. Instead of recognizing these as signs that she was not suited for medical education, our parents hired a medical school tutor at $200 per hour and explained her failures as the natural difficulty of adapting to such rigorous academic demands. Family dinners during this period revolved entirely around Amber's stress levels, study schedules, and emotional well-being as she navigated the challenges of medical school. Every conversation was an analysis of her latest exam results, her relationships with classmates, and strategies for helping her succeed in what was clearly an academic environment beyond her capabilities. Meanwhile, I had been promoted to senior analyst at my firm, was managing major client accounts, and had started developing expertise in business turnarounds, but none of these developments seemed worth discussing. The medical school tutoring sessions became a significant family expense and time commitment, with our parents coordinating Amber's schedule, driving her to sessions, and checking in with the tutor about her progress. They treated her academic struggles like a medical condition that required intensive intervention rather than a simple mismatch between her abilities and the demands of medical education. When I mentioned that I was considering doctoral programs in business, I was asked whether I did not think I was educated enough already. By the end of her first year, Amber was failing multiple courses and had been placed on academic probation. Rather than accepting this as evidence that medicine was not her calling, our parents arranged a meeting with the medical school dean to discuss options for helping her succeed. They implied that the school's teaching methods were not suited to Amber's learning style and suggested that additional accommodations might be necessary. The final blow came when Amber decided that medicine was not her calling and that she wanted to pursue creative fields instead. This decision, which came after our parents had invested over $60,000 in her failed medical school experiment, was met with complete support and understanding. They praised her for having the courage to follow her passion and assured her that money was not as important as finding fulfilling work that aligned with her interests. During this same period, I was excelling in my MBA program, had landed a prestigious summer internship at a Fortune 500 company, and was being recruited for leadership development programs. When I shared these achievements with my family, the response was minimal acknowledgement, followed immediately by concern about how Amber was coping with the stress of leaving medical school and figuring out her next steps. Amber moved back home after leaving medical school and spent 6 months in what our parents called soul searching, but what looked a lot like sleeping until noon, online shopping, and accompanying mom to yoga classes and lunch dates. During this period of unemployment and self-discovery, our parents funded therapy sessions, life coaching, and career counseling to help Amber determine what kind of work would bring her fulfillment and joy. I was working 70-hour weeks at my internship, developing business plans for my consulting projects and networking with industry leaders, but none of this seemed worthy of family attention or support. When I mentioned that I was considering starting a consulting business on the side, I was warned about the dangers of spreading myself too thin and told that I should focus on doing one job well before trying to take on additional responsibilities. Thanksgiving dinner that year became a perfect illustration of our family's priorities. The entire meal conversation focused on Amber's brave decision to leave medical school and her exciting journey of discovering her true passion. Her courage in walking away from a career that was not right for her was praised extensively, and everyone was encouraged to support her during this vulnerable time of transition. When I announced that I had been accepted to a competitive leadership development program that would fast-track my career progression, the news was met with polite congratulations before the conversation immediately returned to Amber's emotional well-being and creative aspirations. My academic achievements, professional development, and clear career trajectory were treated as background noise compared to Amber's dramatic career pivot. The beauty salon venture began as another expensive experiment, funded entirely by our parents' unwavering faith in Amber's eventual success. After 6 months of unemployment and self-discovery, Amber announced her plan to open a beauty salon specializing in trendy hairstyles and nail art. Despite having no business experience, cosmetology training, or understanding of the beauty industry, she was immediately promised $75,000 in startup capital. Our parents approached this investment with the same enthusiasm they had shown for medical school, treating Amber's vague business concept like a guaranteed success story. They rented prime commercial space, funded a complete renovation, and purchased top-of-the-line equipment without requiring any business plan, market research, or financial projections. When I offered to help Amber develop a proper business strategy, I was told that I was too corporate-minded to understand creative businesses. The salon opened with a massive family celebration, including a ribbon-cutting ceremony, catered reception, and feature story in the local newspaper arranged by our parents. This grand opening occurred during the same week that I started my MBA program, but my orientation reception was missed because everyone was focused on celebrating Amber's entrepreneurial debut. Within the first month, it became clear that the salon was struggling with astronomical overhead costs and minimal clientele. Amber had no understanding of business fundamentals like cash flow management, customer acquisition, or operational efficiency. She hired her friends to work at the salon, despite their lack of experience, prioritizing loyalty over competence and further undermining the business's chances of success. When the salon's financial difficulties became undeniable, our parents provided an additional $20,000 in bridge funding without hesitation or conditions. They blamed market conditions and location challenges rather than acknowledging that Amber lacked the skills necessary to run a successful business. During this same period, I was excelling in my MBA program and had received recognition for my leadership in group projects, but these achievements were barely acknowledged. I offered to provide a free business analysis and turnaround strategy for the salon, drawing on the skills I was developing in my MBA program and my experience with struggling businesses. Amber rejected this offer, and our parents supported her decision, explaining that I did not understand the creative aspects of the beauty industry and that my corporate approach would stifle Amber's artistic vision. The family group text during this period was filled with daily encouragement for Amber's suggestions for saving the salon and emotional support for the stress she was experiencing as a business owner. My academic achievements, networking events, and guest lecture invitations were never mentioned, despite the fact that I was building relationships and expertise that would serve my career for decades. By the end of the year, the salon had accumulated $90,000 in debt and was clearly unsustainable. Rather than requiring Amber to take responsibility for this failure, our parents covered all the losses and helped her close the business with minimal financial consequences. The family narrative became that Amber had tried her best and that sometimes businesses fail, despite good intentions, with no acknowledgement that I had predicted these exact problems and offered solutions that were rejected. My MBA graduation should have been a moment of family pride, considering I finished in the top 5% of my class at one of the most prestigious business schools in the country. Instead, it became another example of how my achievements were consistently overshadowed by concern for Amber's emotional state and next career move. I received multiple job offers from Fortune 500 companies and accepted a position at a major consulting firm with a starting salary of $180,000. The family's reaction to my career success was telling in its dismissiveness. Rather than celebrating my accomplishment or acknowledging the years of hard work that led to this opportunity, the response was skepticism about the consulting industry in general. Dad commented that consultants just tell people what they already know, while Mom worried that the job would require too much travel and leave me without time for a personal life. During this same period, Amber started another new venture, selling handmade jewelry online, with our parents providing workspace in their basement and funding for initial inventory. The family WhatsApp group became filled with constant updates about Amber's latest jewelry designs, Etsy sales figures, and plans for expanding into craft fairs and local boutiques. My career milestones, client wins, and professional development opportunities were never mentioned in these family communications. Moving to my new city for the consulting position required arranging everything myself, from apartment hunting to coordinating movers to setting up utilities and services. Meanwhile, Amber received extensive family assistance when she moved into a new apartment that our parents co-signed and partially funded. The contrast was stark, but no longer surprising, as I had learned not to expect support for my transitions and achievements. My first major project at the consulting firm involved analyzing operational inefficiencies for a manufacturing client and developing solutions that ultimately saved them $2.5 million annually. This success led to recognition within the firm and additional high-profile assignments, But when I shared this news with my family, the response was a brief, "That is nice, honey," followed immediately by excitement about Amber's new necklace design that had received 12 likes on Instagram. By my second year at the consulting firm, I had been promoted to senior consultant, making me the youngest person in the firm's history to achieve that level. This promotion came with significant salary increases, equity participation, and leadership responsibilities for major client relationships. Around the same time, Amber's jewelry venture was failing due to high production costs and limited market demand, leading our parents to fund business coaching sessions and a professional website redesign. I was featured in an industry magazine as a rising star in consulting with a detailed profile about my innovative approaches to business problem solving and my track record of delivering results for clients. Our parents did not read the article because they were busy helping Amber prepare for a craft fair where she hoped to sell enough jewelry to cover her monthly expenses. The magazine feature led to speaking opportunities and networking invitations, but none of this seemed to register as significant to my family. Starting a side consulting business seemed like a natural extension of my expertise and a way to build additional income streams while developing my own client base. The venture was immediately profitable, earning me an extra $50,000 in its first year by helping small businesses improve their operations and strategic planning. However, my family's reaction was concern that I was spreading myself too thin and should focus on doing one job well. During the same period, Amber started a food blog featuring recipes and restaurant reviews, with our parents investing in professional photography equipment and website development. The blog attracted minimal followers and consisted primarily of recipes copied from Food Network shows, but family dinner conversations revolved around her latest blog posts and strategies for increasing her readership. When I bought my own condominium, using savings from my consulting work and side business, there was no family acknowledgement of this milestone or offers to help with the housewarming. However, when Amber rented an expensive apartment with our parents co-signing the lease, the family celebrated her independence and adult responsibility, despite the fact that she could not have qualified for the apartment without parental financial backing. The investment opportunity that crystallized my family's attitude toward my judgment came when I identified an emerging technology startup that needed business strategy consultation. After conducting thorough due diligence, I presented a detailed analysis to my family about the investment potential and the company's innovative approach to solving real market problems. My parents dismissed the opportunity as too risky, explaining that technology companies were unpredictable and that I did not understand the complexities of the computer industry. During the same conversation, Amber asked for $30,000 to pivot her jewelry business into home decor, and our parents immediately agreed without requiring any business plan or market analysis. I invested $25,000 of my own money in the technology startup after completing comprehensive research and risk assessment. My family criticized this decision as gambling and worried that I was being irresponsible with my financial security. Meanwhile, Amber's home decor business consisted of buying wholesale items, adding minimal decoration, and marking them up significantly without any understanding of market demand or competitive positioning. Our parents rented warehouse space for Amber's inventory, funded her initial product purchases, and handled her bookkeeping, while she focused on the creative aspects of product selection and marketing. When my tech startup landed a major contract and my investment doubled within 6 months, the family's reaction was that I had gotten lucky with timing rather than making a smart business decision. Amber's home decor business struggled from the beginning with storage costs, inventory management, and the discovery that her target market was already saturated with similar products at lower prices. Our parents provided additional funding and blamed the tough economy rather than acknowledging that Amber had not conducted proper market research or developed a viable business model. When my startup went public and my initial investment became worth $500,000, my family's response was that money was not everything and that Amber was following her passion in a way that would ultimately be more fulfilling. This reaction helped me realize that no amount of success would ever change the fundamental dynamic where my achievements were minimized and Amber's failures were supported unconditionally. The strategic withdrawal I made from seeking family validation was not born from anger, but from a clear-eyed recognition that I was investing emotional energy in relationships that would never provide the return I deserved. I reduced my communication with my family to polite but distant interactions, stopped sharing details about my career developments, and redirected the energy I had been spending on seeking approval toward doubling down on my professional growth. My family barely noticed this change because they were still completely absorbed in Amber's latest schemes and emotional needs. The silence where my achievements used to be shared was filled with more attention to Amber's struggles, plans, and daily activities. This lack of awareness actually confirmed that I was making the right decision by focusing on people and opportunities that valued my contributions. The partnership decision was approaching at my consulting firm, and I used the freedom from family drama to concentrate entirely on building the track record and relationships necessary to secure that promotion. My startup investment had provided enough capital to launch my own consulting company as a side venture, and I began developing a client base and reputation for turning around struggling businesses. My personal life improved dramatically as I started dating a successful entrepreneur who appreciated my ambition and drive rather than seeing it as threatening or incomprehensible. He understood the satisfaction that comes from building something meaningful and supported my goals in ways my family never had. Our relationship developed without any family input or involvement, which eliminated the stress and judgment that had complicated previous relationships. The breakthrough moment came when a local business magazine featured my consulting company as the fastest-growing firm in the region. The article included photographs, detailed success stories from satisfied clients, and testimonials about my innovative approaches to business problem solving. The magazine was delivered to my parents' house because my subscription still used their address from my college years. Mom called after receiving the magazine, surprised to learn that I had been featured in a publication she had never heard of. Her tone suggested that she was genuinely unaware of the scale of my business success, despite the fact that I had been building this company for over 2 years. When she asked why I had never mentioned being in magazines before, I calmly explained that she had never asked about my work in any detail. Dad called later that day, but his interest was not in celebrating my success or learning more about my business. Instead, he wanted to discuss whether I might be willing to provide consulting services for Amber's next venture, which apparently involved some kind of online coaching business. When I explained that I only worked with businesses that showed genuine potential for success, he was offended by what he perceived as my unwillingness to help family. I declined to work with Amber, not because I wanted to punish her, but because my reputation and client relationships were built on delivering results for businesses with solid fundamentals and committed leadership. Mixing family dynamics with professional services would have been unfair to both my other clients and to my own business standards. Amber called later that evening, crying about how hurt she was that I would not automatically support her ideas and provide free consulting services. I explained that my relationship with family and my business advice were separate things, and that treating family members like clients would actually be more professional and helpful than giving free advice that might be ignored. Our parents attempted to guilt me into changing my mind by emphasizing that family members should support each other unconditionally. I pointed out that support had only flowed in one direction for 26 years, and that true support might involve honest feedback about business viability rather than automatic approval for every idea. When my consulting firm won the Regional Business Excellence Award, the recognition included local television interviews, newspaper features, and industry-wide acknowledgement of our innovative approaches to helping businesses succeed. Suddenly, family, friends, and acquaintances began mentioning to my parents that they had seen me in the news or heard about my company's success. This external validation from people outside our family seemed to carry more weight than my direct communications about my achievements. My parents' friends were impressed by my business acumen and professional recognition, and their comments apparently caused my parents to realize that they had been missing something significant about my career trajectory. The family's sudden interest in my success felt hollow because it was motivated by social embarrassment rather than genuine pride or understanding. They wanted to claim credit for my achievements now that other people were noticing them, but they had been absent during all the years of hard work, setbacks, and gradual progress that built the foundation for this recognition. When Amber asked for business advice after watching my television interview, I agreed to meet with her using the same consultation process I used with any potential client. I presented an honest assessment of her business ideas, pointing out that she lacked fundamental business knowledge, had no track record of sustained effort, and showed no understanding of market analysis or competitive positioning. Amber was angry about what she called harsh feedback, and our parents supported her emotional reaction rather than considering whether my assessment might be accurate. I was unbothered by their response because I had learned that truth does not require emotional management and that honest feedback is more valuable than supportive encouragement for ideas that are destined to fail. My new relationship with my family was built on my terms rather than their expectations. I maintained boundaries around my time, energy, and professional reputation while still participating in family relationships at a level that felt sustainable and healthy. The dynamic had shifted permanently, and while there was still love, there was also a new respect that came from recognition of my actual capabilities and achievements. Success had become its own validation, independent from family approval or recognition. The consulting business continued growing and expanding nationwide. My personal life flourished with someone who valued my ambition, and I learned that sometimes you have to succeed despite your family rather than because of them. Being underestimated had become my greatest advantage, fueling a determination that people with automatic support never develop. The lesson I learned was that when others underestimate you, they are actually giving you the gift of low expectations that you can dramatically exceed. Family love and family respect are different things, and you can maintain the first while demanding the second. Sometimes choosing yourself means disappointing people who never chose you correctly in the first place. Have you ever felt like your family just could not see your potential the way others could? I want to know your story, so please share in the comments below what happened when you proved the doubters wrong. If this story resonated with you, show some love by hitting that like button And make sure to subscribe for more stories about people who turn their biggest challenges into their greatest strengths. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that being underestimated can actually be the best thing that ever happens to your success. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes the people who believe in you least give you the most motivation to prove them wrong. Until next time, keep betting on yourself even when nobody else will.